Rage on that beat, going crazy.
Pow! What's going on, angler unit people? What are we doing today? Well, hopefully just a quick unboxing. Hopefully quick unboxing of a new addition to my arsenal. Now, this is a spot that has been empty in my lineup for far too many years now. And it's a type of rod that I'm very comfortable with and I've used previously for the better part of a decade. And I've gotten away from it in the last, especially I'm going to say like maybe 5 or 6 years. My arsenal's average length of rods has grown from, you know, that 7 foot, 7'1", and now the better part of my arsenal is like 7'2", 7'3", 7'4", you know, just for my everyday rods. And that works great in a lot of, you know, lake and open water conditions, or when you're, you know, fishing from a boat, or you're fishing from like, you know, wide open banks and pilings. It's great for that stuff. It's just not good when you're going pond hopping and you're going in little cutouts of little trees and like canals and small streams, and you still want to use a bait caster. And it's a gap that is really missing in bass fishing. Yeah, so let's get it open, then we'll talk about that gap that's missing in bass fishing, because a lot of you just want to see what I got here. So let me get a knife. Let's get it opened up. And let's take a look. All right, so let's take a look at the rod. Yeah, this thing is sexy. And that's a big part of why I bought it. You know, I would call it like a nice budget rod, the Phenix M1 series. Now, I've not used the M1s. This is one of the few manufacturers that I haven't owned a rod by, and I believe they're either out of Texas or California. It's eluding me right now. But if you tuned in for me to just unveil the rod and read the specs and call it a day, you're watching the wrong channel, because that's not what Angler Unit's about at all. It's about the decisions we make and why we make those decisions and how those things influence our fishing. So I'm going to get the plastic off this, and then we're going to go over exactly what is this filling, what hole is this filling in my lineup, and what is this rod sort of aimed at. All right, so I'll be back in 1 second here. I gotta get some scissors to cut this off. For those of you with short attention spans, or you're hiding in the bathroom at work watching this video, I'll get it out and I'll just show it to you up close, and I'll read the specs like any other YouTube moron might do. And then for those of you that stick around, we'll get into the sexier subjects of this rod. So this is oh wow, they even wrapped a little bit of cork. So this is the Phenix M1 series of rods. Now the M1, it's sort of I would call this a mid-tier rod. Very lightweight. You know, they make a lot of, or they talk about a lot of different marketing things like nanotubes. And I even think they even put nanotubes on the rod. I think it's the equivalent to 36-ton graphite. Now this model in particular, let's take a up close look at it for everyone that just wants to see it real quick. Okay, it is the sexiest shade of purple you've ever seen. Not a color shift chameleon purple like the Mike Iaconelli series of rods. Custom handle. Super minimum, super minimalistic handle here. I mean, your finger is on the blanks, small rod hood, tiny amount of cork up front here, and then it has the carbon fiber butt section, which I love. I'm a big fan of that. I think that, you know, rods that have a lot of foam, or even worse, a fender is cork back there. It's useless. We don't handle rods back here. So, you know, just give me stuff where I'm making contact. I don't need it all back here. Now, here are the specs for those of you that need the leave, okay? It is a fast rod. Now, Phenix calls this a medium light power, and it is 6 foot 9 inches. And the lure rating on it is 1/4 ounce to 5/8 of an ounce. Now, to me, that's not a medium light at all. That's a medium. This is a medium rod. This is basically a spinning rod if you want to use a bait caster. So, and it is good looking. And I've been a big fan of the M1 series. They used to look a lot different than this. I want to say it was like 8 years ago. I've wanted to get an M1 in my arsenal for the longest time, and it just wasn't happening. I've almost all evergreens and megabass rods, and a G Loomis, and no Phenix rods. And I didn't have a need for any of their models because, you know, I need another medium heavy bait caster that's like 7'2", like I need a hole in the head. I just don't need it. Oh wow, there's like there are sparkles in this custom handle here, like little silver red micro sparkles in this handle. That's really awesome. So yeah, sexy looking. So that was a huge part of why I bought it. Price is good. I think these are like they're like that 170 to 180 price range. Very light. You know, not a big stiff heavy backbone back here. Now, as far as my arsenal goes, like I was saying, I've gotten away from shorter rods and I'm going back to them. So this one is 6 foot 9 inches. You know, now this isn't a medium light. I mean, this is a true medium, but they're calling it a medium light, maybe so that less educated anglers don't try to overpower it. I don't know. They want you to maybe use kid gloves with it. But, you know, when I'm fishing the shoreline and I'm around a ton of trees and overhanging willow trees, and I'm hiking a creek with narrow walls, you know, there's a lot of times where I'm not fishing open water. And when I'm fishing in enclosed spaces, my 7'2" rods and my 7'4" spinning rods are a fucking nightmare. And they don't let me make the presentations they don't let me make the presentations I need to make to get bass that are in, you know, spooky shallow water situations. And when I used to fish rods in this like 6'6" to 7 foot and no bigger range, especially on the shorter side of 7 foot, I was able to make way better presentations. So this rod is going to be sort of my wacky rigged Senko, nose hooked fluke, not super flukes on like a 4/0, you know, wide gap, you know, 2X wire hook, but nose hooked flukes, wacky rigged Senkos, wacky rigged worms, smaller blade baits, you know, even a bigger than normal Ned rig, maybe a heavy duty drop shot, certainly a shaky head, anything in that like pond Bass Finesse situation. Now, talking about Bass Finesse, there is BFS, which is Bait Finesse, which I'm not interested in. because I don't need to throw trout magnets for bass. I have no intention of ever doing that. If I want to throw something that lightweight, it's not going to be for bass, because stuff that lightweight is going to get me way too many panfish. And even in those situations where I was going to fish ultra, like tiny jerk baits and tiny spinners and things like little like trout offerings for bass, I'm just using a spinning rod. I'm going to use like a 6'6" G Loomis spinning rod, and it's going to present those things amazingly. I don't need a bait caster to do that. I think Bait Finesse is for people that want to use trout lures and they're primarily obsessed with using the smaller lures, and they want to present it on a bait caster, which gives you good control. I'm all for that. I'm just saying, when I'm fishing for bass, I can't use those little tiny baits. I get too many other trash fish with it. So for me, a good phrase is Bass Finesse, which means I'm using finesse lures that you would typically fish on a spinning rod, but I'm fishing them with a bait caster. So you don't need a BFS reel. You would get a bait caster that's just like a 70 size, a 70 size Steez, or a Corrado, 70, or a Scorpion 70, or, a Tatula 70, something like that. Something designed for smaller baits. So you could throw little jerk baits and little Ned rigs and little shaky heads and unweighted small soft plastics offerings. So that's what this is for. That's the role it's going to fill. And so this is going to be almost like a bank beater or a canal walker. It's just going to let me make presentations within 25 yards and closer in kind of clear water with skittish fish. So why this rod? Well, there aren't a lot of mediums out there to begin with by rod manufacturers. And when they make one in a bait caster, they always think it's a jerkbait rod. So that's the first problem I've run into. And then when they do have them and a rod manufacturer makes them, they sell out really quick and they're not available. So, I thought for $180, I've always loved the cosmetics of the Phenix M1 series. I know that the quality's there with Phenix. I've read enough good things over the last 15 years maybe that I've been aware of them and they've been on my radar. And I just thought this purple looked so rad. And I love the custom reel seat they made for it. It's so finessey, and it's so cool that I just noticed it has like micro sparkles in it. And I love the bare carbon fiber looking butt section on this rod. Because I really like what the Shimano Zodius did with their rods, and the medium Zodius was like really hard to come by. And Jackal, I love this. I hope this works its way into almost everybody's lineup, because I just really think cushioning back here is pointless. And this thing's a featherweight. It's really, really, really lightweight. So it's going to be awesome. It's 6'9". It's going to be perfect for light little pitches from the shoreline. So stoked to get this in the lineup. I'm going to be putting a Shimano Scorpion 151 MGL on this. So the red Scorpion on the purple and red and orange, Phenix M1's probably going to look really sick. So yeah, so medium light, they call it. I would say trust me on this. It's a medium. Think of your medium spinning rod. Now you've got it in a bait caster, and that's how I'm going to use it. It's basically just a spinning rod, but in bait caster form. My initial impressions are it's stellar, it's gorgeous, it's cool. I got it over the Memorial Day sale, so I picked it up at 15% off. So the price was right, and it's kind of a niche rod for me anyway. So yeah, I'll get back to you guys and we'll talk about it, and I'll show it to you with you know, the reel and strung up, and I'll keep you informed on how it's been working for me. So hope this helped. If you're, you know, out in the market for the rod, we'll take one more look at it. You know, it's got that purpley carbon butt section with the kind of weird and off-putting M1 logo. Nice custom reel seat. It's beautiful. It's a good looking rod. And that purple color, you know, I can't say enough good things about the cosmetics of the rod and the build quality. Guide trains all super straight. I remember back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, when I would go to buy a rod and I had to buy it in a physical location, God forbid. I used to be the guy in the store that was making sure all the guides were perfect, because I did buy some rods in the early 90s where either the reel seat was cocked off the guide train, or, you know, a few of the guides were just off, and that drove me nuts even in the early 90s. So yeah, great price of a rod. I'm really actually I'm pleasantly surprised by how light it is. I wasn't looking for an ultra lightweight, like, you know, 3-ounce rod, but it's an ultra lightweight. So very cool. I'll keep you guys posted. Thanks for checking it out. All right, have a good day. By the way, there's what it looks like with a reel on it. So now you know.